Hi everybody, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and it is the end of the week, which means it is time for our Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. This week we actually started with one of my favorite movies of all time. In fact, the movie which I will answer with if people press me, what is your favorite movie of all time? I reject the concept of favorites because there are so many truly great movies, but the movie I've probably seen more time than any other and that I'm always willing to watch, no matter what the circumstances, is The Blues Brothers from 1980, of course, directed by John Landis. It is... What can I say about this movie? It is a perfect movie. It is a 10 out of 10, absolutely incredible experience. Of course, it is Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi in the principal title roles as the Blues Brothers, making a movie based on the sketches that they did on Saturday Night Live with their band, the Blues Brothers Band. There is a whole host of awesome cameos by top performers like James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, Cab Calloway. I mean, it is just an incredible musical. If for some reason you have never seen this movie, I invite you to literally drop everything and watch it. I don't know what to say to you if you've never seen this movie. Like I said, it's the one I've seen more times than any other. I probably have seen this movie 50 times plus, I'm guessing, in my life. I love it. It's just an incredible movie. It is, every single scene in the movie is perfect. The whole thing is like a live action musical cartoon. Everything is just over exaggerated for effect. The car chases are unbelievable. Both of the main car chases in the movie are like the best car chase I've ever seen. Carrie Fisher in her role as John Belushi's ex who's out for revenge it's like the greatest Carrie Fisher role ever. It's just iconic. It is just hands down an incredible movie. There's not really much else to say other than it's just incredible. It's, this cast that's just incredible. The writing is incredible. The music is, of course, just unbelievable. The entire soundtrack and all of the performances in the movie are just unbelievable. It's just perfect. I feel like I sound like kind of an idiot right now because I'm just like, it's so great. But like literally, it is one of the best movies ever made. It's completely perfect. I know the whole thing by heart like a million times over, every song, every line from every scene. I couldn't even pick a favorite scene in the movie. I couldn't even pick a favorite musical number in the movie because they're all so good. So, again, if you've never seen it, please watch this movie. If you haven't seen it recently, go back and watch it again. I guarantee you're going to love it. It's just one of the best ever made. And one of the three amazing films that John Landis directed. I mean, he's directed more than three, but as far as I'm concerned, it's The Blues Brothers, American Werewolf in London, and of course the music video for Michael Jackson's Thriller, all by the same guy, right? And it shows in this movie. The direction is incredible. And again, it's like watching a live action cartoon. It's like every single scene they said, okay, how can we exaggerate this? How can we make this even funnier, even, more? How can we be walking cartoons, right? So yeah, The Blues Brothers, see it. I do not recommend the sequel or any spin-off, anything ever. Just the original movie from 1980. That's it. That's all you need. You don't need any of the other stuff. So The Blues Brothers. The next night after The Blues Brothers, we watched the Wicker Man remake from 2006 starring Nicolas Cage. I'm a huge fan of the original, and I don't like remakes in general, but Sean had been pressing me to see this movie basically since it came out. I think he went and saw it with one of his brothers, and I didn't go with them. And so he's had this whole knowledge of it for, 14 years. And I've been, completely in the dark about it. And he's been like, you really got to see it. It's almost better than the original. Maybe it is better than the original. So I went in open-minded but skeptical. Again, I'm not a huge fan of remakes, but I loved it. They did a great job. It's a great retelling of the story. I, of course, loved the Pacific Northwest setting. It was perfect for here and sort of the the types of extreme pagan hippies that we do actually have in the Pacific Northwest. I've never met anyone that extreme, but it definitely felt like the right setting for the movie. I felt like overall this remake did a better job of actually telling the story of what's happening in the story than the original. The original is a little bit muddled in its pacing, and it can be a little hard to follow, especially for younger folks in the audience and people who maybe aren't paying attention as well as they should. And I definitely felt like this one did a better job of the storytelling. The major downside of this movie for me was actually Nicolas Cage. He did a pretty good job most of the time, but there's a couple parts where he's just overacting to the max, and it really distracts from the quality of the other actors' performances. And then the other thing was the treatment of there's a pretty dramatic car accident that happens in the beginning of the movie, and then Nick Cage's character spends a lot of the rest of the movie having like PTSD flashbacks to the car accident, and the treatment of the flashbacks is like terrible. It's like they go black and white and like sped up or slowed down or repeated footage, and it gets all kind of jerky and almost like epileptic seizure or something feeling. And I understand what they're trying to do like emotionally, but it just doesn't work visually with the rest of the movie that well. But other than those two things, I thought this was a great movie, a really solid remake. Like I said, on par with, or maybe even better than the original in certain respects. And then in other aspects, no, not as much. The climactic scene where we actually finally see the Wicker Man is amazing. They did a great job with that. The build and the special effects and all of that looked really awesome. So recommended if you are a fan of the original and have never checked out the remake. I would watch the original first just because I'm that kind of guy, but you could totally watch this one without having seen the original. Or I guess they're both based on the same book, which I've never read. But it's a solid movie, and if you are a fan of the Nick Cage thing, you know, him doing him, you will love this movie. So recommended on the Wicker Man remake. And then speaking of just ignore the remake, we watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, of course, from 1971, starring Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka. Immediately after I posted that we had watched this movie for Cinema Club, I had like 3 different comments from people asking if we were going to watch the remake for comparison, and the answer is hell no. No, no, no. Sorry, there is only one Willy Wonka, and it's Gene Wilder, and it's this movie. What an incredible piece. You guys remember this one, right? Based on the Roald Dahl book, the story of Charlie Bucket, who's a really poor kid who gets the golden ticket to go to Willy Wonka's factory. And of course, we tour the inside of the factory with Charlie and a bunch of other misbehaving kids who don't listen when Willy Wonka tells them to stop doing what they're doing. And they suffer the consequences for it. Don't want to say too many spoilers here, but it's an incredible movie. It is a musical. I think a lot of people forget that it's a musical because it has some pretty forgettable musical numbers in it, but it also has some really memorable musical numbers in it, including the Candy Man, which is sung by a candy store man at the beginning of the movie, which I didn't realize that's actually where that song comes from. I thought it was an older song that had been incorporated into the movie, but no, the Candyman was written for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and it was later made even more famous by Sammy Davis Jr. Apparently, Sammy Davis Jr. Auditioned for the part of the Candyman in the candy store, but the makers of the movie didn't want anyone that had that like level of superstardom because they felt like it would detract from the experience of the movie. So it's an incredible movie. It's an incredible story. A great performance from Gene Wilder. I mean, he is Willy Wonka, and he's so dang perfect in that role. He definitely overacts on his part as well, but it is not painful the way watching Nicolas Cage overact is. And you know, there's a lot of Grandpa Joe hate on the internet. I don't know if you guys remember, but the story is that Charlie's 4 grandparents are too disabled to even get out of bed, and so the mom has to do everything. She's got to go out to work. Charlie's got a paper route. The mom's taking care of the bedridden grandparents and doing all of it. And then once Charlie gets the golden ticket and discovers that he's going to the chocolate factory, Grandpa Joe suddenly is able to get up out of bed and walk around, and he's fine. And I gotta say, I had read the Grandpa Joe hate on the internet and was like, yeah, whatever. But watching the movie, and especially the part where his daughter says that he has not gotten out of bed in 20 years. Let me tell you something, guys. as a recent caregiver of a disabled person, I was livid on her behalf. I was like screaming at the television, which is terrible, but this asshole had his daughter changing his bedpan for 20 years when he could walk the whole time. I'm not so down with Grandpa Joe. Also, when they're in the chocolate factory, Grandpa Joe is the one who convinces Charlie to break the rules. And then when they get rudely dismissed at the end of the tour by Willy Wonka because they broke the rules, Grandpa Joe acts like a complete asshole about it instead of owning the fact that he totally broke the rules and doesn't deserve to get the prize because he's the one that broke the damn rules. So what's the deal with Grandpa Joe? Why is he such a jerk? I guess we'll never know, but now I fully understand the level of hate on the internet for Grandpa Joe. If you've never seen the movie for some reason, please see it. It is a family favorite, but it also has some, kind of disturbing elements to it. There is the infamous boat ride scene through the tunnel that a lot of people, I guess, felt like traumatized about as children. And I've read in a lot of places that, when people are asked, like, what's the scariest scene in a non-horror movie that you've ever seen? It's like the majority of people answer that scene from Willy Wonka. And I told Sean that going into the movie, and I was like, yeah, whatever, people have problems. And then we watched it and I was like, this is actually pretty intense. And I could see how, for a little kid, it might be too much, especially a certain type of person as a little kid. But don't let that stop you. It is still one of the most incredible family adventure fantasy musical pieces of all time. And who could forget that incredible Oompa Loompa song? Oh, we all loved it. The kids went wild about it. It was fantastic. The next night after that, we decided to continue with our circus theme that we had started last week or the week before. And Sean picked out Vampire Circus, the Hammer horror movie from, I think it's 1972. Incredible movie about a circus full of vampires, traveling around into this village in Eastern Europe somewhere. I think it's Serbia, but I might have that wrong. The town is beset with a plague, and there is a border patrol of guys who are not letting anyone in or out of the town so they can stop the spread of the plague. A little bit familiar for Corona times. So that's kind of an interesting plot element, but the circus makes it through the blockade and they come in and start entertaining the townspeople and the children of the town. And of course, the circus is being run by vampires and they are ensnaring and trapping these children and people and using them as human prey. And it is great. It was really fun. It's really it's well written, well told, really interesting use of animals and animal photography in the movie. The vampires shapeshift back and forth between being like human and cat, like big cat form, which is really cool. Also, the ending of the movie is really great. The way our heroes escape from a vampire who's attacking them. I don't want to say too much, but unique use of a crossbow that I had never seen before in a vampire movie. So that was really fun. And kind of a cool piece of trivia for this movie is the guy who plays the circus strongman in a totally silent role in Vampire Circus is David Prowse, who of course is best known for being the body of Darth Vader in the original Star Wars trilogy. Of course, not the voice, that's James Earl Jones, but he was the big beefy dude inside the costume. So you get to see him as a circus strongman in Vampire Circus, which is a pretty fun little thing. And then, gotta check my notes. The last night of our cinema club week, which was last night, Jimmy's pick was to watch the new movie Gretel and Hansel, which I was feeling a little nervous about. This is one of my favorite fairy tales ever. And, sometimes when people do new interpretations of old works, it's great. And other times it's like, oh God, what did you do? This was fantastic. We all loved it. It was incredible. The principal actors who play Gretel and Hansel and the Witch are amazing. It is so awesomely styled. The way the film looks is awesome. It is directed by Oz Perkins, who's the same guy who did The Black Coat's Daughter. So if you enjoyed that movie, you will love Gretel and Hansel. It was a really great twist on the traditional story. It had all of the elements that we were looking for except one. The witch's house is not made of gingerbread and cake in this version of the story. And the kids were a little disappointed with that, but they did a really good job on the witch's house. They had the architecture of it was really interesting. It was like an asymmetrical A-frame that at one point became like a witch's hat for her, which was pretty cool. There were a couple of lines in the movie which were done in homage to the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, which was awesome. They had the witch in Gretel and Hansel kept calling Gretel my pretty, which of course is a lift from the Wicked Witch of the West. And then at the end, when Gretel kills her, oh, spoiler alert, you guys know this story, right? The witch dies at the end. The last line she says is "What a world," which is the last line that we get from Margaret Hamilton as the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz, excuse me, blanking out on that one. So that was really, really cool that they threw those couple of lines in there to connect, a witch to a witch and everything. There are a couple places where the storyline deviates from the traditional fairy tale in this one, but I think they actually did it really well. I liked the concepts and I really liked the way that the story unfolded and what happened at the end after Gretel managed to defeat the witch. It was a really good one, really, really stylish, really loved the way everything looked and was presented and the way the dialogue flowed and how that matched with it. So it was pretty great. Definitely recommended if you like fairy tale interpretations, especially dark fairy tale interpretations. It's scary, but not scary, if that makes sense. I wouldn't have any problem showing this to a pretty small kid. There are some moments that are a bit horrifying, but it's pretty tame. If you really don't have any kind of ability to sit through stuff that's scary, maybe skip this one, but I don't think it's too scary for most people. And like I said, we really enjoyed it. So if you're a fan of fairy tales, dark fairy tales, it's a grim fairy tale, ha ha ha. Definitely give that one a watch. It just came out a few months ago, and we saw it. I can't remember if it's on Netflix or not, but you guys know where to find stuff. So that's everything that we watched this week. Next week, I'm not sure. I think we're going to continue our circus theme. I actually realized that I could show the kids Freaks, directed by Todd Browning, the original 1932 circus sideshow movie. And I'm curious to see what their response is, because of course, audiences of the time were shocked, but a whole lot of time has gone by since then. So what would a modern audience think? And of course, today is Mother's Day, so it's my pick for Cinema Club tonight. And I want to dive in and view one of my favorite on-screen moms of all time. We are going to watch the Addams Family movie, of course, with Angelica Houston as Morticia Addams, one of my favorite performances. But if you're looking for Mother's Day movie recommendations, I will always recommend, Linda Hamilton in T2 Judgment Day is an incredible screen mom. And also, I like to give the little twisty recommendation of Little Shop of Horrors, where, the reveal at the end is that Audrey 2 is a mean green mother from outer space. So what are you watching anything mom themed for Mother's Day today? Or no, maybe you watch your mom's favorite movie. Maybe you're watching a movie with your mom. Who knows? My kids are watching a movie with their mom. That's what we're doing for Mother's Day. All right, I'm gonna wrap up here. You guys do let me know what you've been watching this last week or what you're planning on watching for Mother's Day or next week down in the comments below. I will be back in a couple days with another episode of my vlog, and I will be back on Friday with another tutorial vlog. This time it's going to be the indigo dyeing tutorial, which I am really excited to share with you guys. All right, until then, have a great day and thanks for watching.